Okay, so we're looking at a video transcript today. It's basically taking apart Nick Fuentes, using his own clips to argue against him being, normalized.
Yeah. And right off the bat, you see the effort. There's a real commitment to tackling some frankly awful rhetoric head on. The homework's been done.
Mm-hmm.
And using those specific clips, like the Hitler comment or mocking Erica Kirk, that's strong evidence. It's undeniable, really. The foundation is solid. You've got the raw material.
Right. You've got these really damning clips, stuff that hits hard. So I think the first place to look is how we make sure that evidence lands with maximum impact. Structure and flow, basically.
Exactly. Because that brings us to the first key area for improvement. The video's persuasive power is undercut by significant structural interruptions that repeatedly break the momentum of the evidence presentation.
Yeah, that feels like a big misstep, especially with this kind of material. The weakness is really about pacing, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
You have these moments, these really shocking clips of Fuentes, and then boom, right before or right after, there's a long ad plug or, repeat calls to subscribe or whatever.
And it just takes all the air out of the room. It's like throwing cold water on the argument you're building. It diminishes the seriousness, the emotional weight of what's being exposed.
I mean, think about that tater store plug. It goes into detail, right? Bourbon, jalapeno, bacon smoked sea salt.
Kahuna garlic spice. Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes right after you're talking about Fuentes being a coward and just before you get into him using the N-word. That's jarring.
It's more than jarring. It creates serious whiplash for the viewer. You're essentially signaling that the hate speech and the spice blend are sort of on the same level of importance editorially, which obviously they aren't. It almost disrespects the gravity of the evidence.
So the goal is exposure, making people take this seriously. The content needs space to hit home. But, is there a risk, like, if you bunch up all the ads, do you lose engagement or annoy people who expect ads mixed in?
Look, it's always a balance, right? But with this subject matter, you're making a moral case against hate speech. Editorial integrity has to come first. The payoff for keeping the focus sharp is way higher than the risk.
Okay.
So our suggestion is definitely to resequence things. Put the most critical evidence right up front. Group all the non-content stuff, promos, challenges, CTAs. Keep that together in clearly marked sections.
Like designated ad breaks.
Exactly. Let the main argument land cleanly, without interruption. That actually boosts your credibility, makes the whole thing more powerful.
So let's make that concrete, that tater store ad. Where does it go?
Okay, a concrete example. Set up maybe one main ad break. Put it after you've laid out your thesis and gone through the first, say, 2 or 3 really damning clips and analyzed.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of dropping it right in the middle of the evidence, move that whole segment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got a great deal for you. All the way through the steakhouse seasoning, move it complete, mid-roll maybe, or even near the end.
Establish the seriousness first, sell the spices later.
Precisely. Let the audience lock onto the moral issue you're exposing, not get distracted by, seasoning.
Right, that structure is key. But, okay, shifting gears a bit. What about the main argument itself, the whole normalization idea? Was that clear? Did it stay focused?
Well, that structural point is huge. But yeah, let's talk about the content of the argument. The idea of normalization, that's actually defined really well. You use that great analogy, interviewing Stalin but ignoring the mass murder. That framing is brilliant.
Okay, so the definition is strong.
It is, but the central intellectual argument that interviewing controversial figures without challenging core value constitutes normalization is diluted by an excessive focus on personal, speculative challenges against Fuentes.
Ah, I see what you mean. That's the weakness then. There's a lot of time spent predicting how Fuentes would act in person.
A lot of time.
Lines like, he would never say this to my face, or predicting he would be trying to be my friend. And that repeated focus on, I'm going to get in your rear end pause.
And look, the anger is understandable, right? But rhetorically, that's a massive detour. Every second you spend on whether Fuentes is personally brave or cowardly is a second you aren't focusing on the commentators or platform, giving him the microphone without any real pushback.
So it shifts from the systemic issue to a personal beef.
Exactly. It turns into this kind of online street fight challenge, and the audience's focus shifts away from the real problem, the normalization of dangerous ideas by supposedly responsible media.
Which risks making the whole critique seem less serious, maybe? Just another internet feud?
It potentially does. So, the suggestion here is to consciously reframe that personal anger. Channel it back into a direct, logical challenge. Not against Fuentes the person, but against the platforms and the hosts enabling.
Less about the personal confrontation.
much less. Maximize the connection between the shocking clip you just showed and the failure of the interviewer or platform to address it adequately. Keep the focus on that systemic breakdown.
So how does that look in practice? Let's say after clip 405, that's the one where Fuentes says white people are justified in being racist to avoid the terror dome. Instead of the line, I'm not going to say nothing about that.
Right. Instead of that personal aside, you pivot hard to the systemic critique. Ask the question directly. Which mainstream host, especially one claiming conservative or Christian values, could possibly hear that specific statement that racism is justified and just let it slide?
Without challenging it.
Without challenging it forced. By asking that, you put the spotlight right back on the normalization itself. You demonstrate the failure of those platforms in real time. It makes the core argument much sharper, much more focused.
Yeah, that definitely keeps the focus where it needs to be on the platform's responsibility, which actually leads us nicely into the third area, doesn't it? The tone and style, and how that aligns with the moral argument.
Absolutely connected. It's about maintaining that moral high ground you're claiming. So, adopting a consistently measured tone and leveraging the appeal to Christian decorum could significantly enhance the moral authority of the critique against Fuentes' deeply offensive content.
Okay, explain that. The video does call Fuentes out on Christian decorum, right? Says if he's a Christian, he shouldn't be cussing, shouldn't mock Kirk for not being Christian enough, needs certain word and decorum. That seems like a strong position.
It's a potentially very strong position, but the weakness is, well, sometimes the speaker's own language choices create a slight mismatch.
How so?
When you use really confrontational language like, I'm going to get in your rear end, or even milder stuff like calling his rhetoric, all that junk you were talking online, it introduces a combative element.
Okay.
You're setting this high standard for Fuentes based on Christian conduct, but then the critique itself occasionally dips into a more aggressive, less measured tone. It creates a minor contradiction.
And that gives critics an opening, distracts from the main point?
It can, yeah. It gives people a chance to focus on the tone of the messenger instead of the substance of the message, which is Fuentes' own horrific words.
So the suggestion is pretty clear then. If you're making a moral critique, especially invoking religious standards, your own delivery needs to be, well, almost beyond reproach, tonally.
Exact. Maintain a consistently serious, maybe even somber tone throughout this kind of expose. Let Fuentes' words do the heavy lifting.
Let the clips speak for themselves.
Let the racism, the mockery of grief, like that awful clip 403 about Erica Kirk's husband, the comments about J.D. Vance's wife, let that stuff carry the full weight of the moral judgment. No need to add extra heat.
Okay, concrete example. That Erica Kirk clip. The video focuses a lot on the violation of a homeboy-wife boundary, which is valid on a personal level.
But it kind of limits the scope of the outrage, doesn't it? Makes it about friendship loyalty.
Right. So instead?
Instead, frame it primarily as a violation of basic human decency, universal compassion. Ask, what kind of person, Christian or not, mocks someone's recent tragic loss by asking if her husband just got his face blown off like 2 seconds ago?
Frame it universally, not personally.
Yes, that reinforces the bigger theme. Normalizing somebody like this is stupid and morally wrong, regardless of personal connection. It makes the critique about fundamental value relevant to everyone.
That elevates the argument significantly, keeps it focused, serious.
It just ensures the delivery matches the profound gravity of the subject matter.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So wrapping this up, we've got 3 main actionable suggestions for revision here.
Yep. First, structure. Streamline. Get those promotional bits out of the way of the core evidence. Consolidate so the shocking clips land with full, uninterrupted force. Don't let ads undercut the expose.
Second, focus. Sharpen that central normalization argument. Pull back on the personal challenges and predictions about Fuentes' behavior. Instead, aim that fire directly at the platforms and hosts who fail to challenge the rhetoric. Make it systemic.
And third, tone. Maintain consistency. If you're invoking Christian decorum or just basic decency as a standard, make sure the critique's tone stays measured and serious. Let Fuentes' own words provide the shock value. Avoid language that could undermine your own moral authority.
Right. Implementing these, I think, will really boost the video's impact, clarify its purpose, and make the argument against this kind of normalization much more powerful and persuasive.
Definitely. It's strong material, and these changes could really help it hit its full potential.
Excellent. We really encourage you to take these suggestions on board, revise the piece, and please do submit it again. We'd be very interested to see the next version.